take a moment to just be like, well, what am I grateful for in this moment? Because it allowed me to shift my perspective to get back to who am I writing this book for? And I was writing the book for that person who is struggling, who's going through a tough time, to let them know you're not alone in it. You will make it through. You will be okay. You can still have those tough times and find something to hold on to that will keep you going. And that would be oftentimes what I would do.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage. So imagine if every time somebody wanted to quit, they had a conversation with 10 elite athletes who've been exactly where they are. That's essentially what my guest today has created. Phebe Trotman has collected the most valuable moments from Olympic champions, world record holders, and Hall of Fame athletes, not for highlight reels, but for breakdown moments. And this goes from everything from NHL locker rooms to MMA cages, from cricket fields to gymnastic arenas. So we've really got a whole book of stories that usually stay buried, but we're going to be bringing them to light today as we chat about Phoebe's book and about some writing tips too. So without further ado, Phebe, welcome to the Authors on Mission podcast.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I really appreciate being here. Super excited for this conversation.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Yeah, totally. I think this is a really unique book. I think it's so cool that you were able to collect all these different stories, but in a unique way. Everyone always hears about the good things, but not always about the struggle moments that people overcome. I tell my authors this all the time. You can't have a book all about successes because people relate and learn from the struggles. So thank you for making this for everybody.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I learned a lot through the writing journey as well too. And so I always think we can learn from each other, and it's beautiful when we can share those struggles to let people know that they're not alone in those challenges. Even if the challenge doesn't look the exact same way, there's a challenge. It's a difficult moment for someone, and how can they grow through that moment?
Absolutely. And I think that your experiences and your own life too kind of is a reflection of that as well. So a little bit about yourself. I mean, I know you used to do soccer, was it? And the Vancouver Whitecaps. Was that also soccer, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then you left them in 2006, but on a good day. So can you tell us a little bit about that and how that might have inspired this book coming to be?
Absolutely. Yeah. So in 2006, so I was playing for the Vancouver Whitecaps. I played 6 seasons, five, 6 or 7 seasons. I don't even remember. It was a while ago. Anyhow, and had a great, I mean, I'm so grateful for the experience of playing with the Vancouver Whitecaps, the teammates, the coaches, and played for, again, several seasons. And I got to this moment where it was after a game. It was preseason, so we had just kind of a game, and I received great feedback from the coach. And I just remember I was driving home and I pulled over to get gas. I remember exactly where I was, and I just felt this sense of peace. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready to focus somewhere else. I had recently started an online business as well too, and I've played soccer my entire life. And as an athlete, high level, you do end up missing some important things like family events, things with friends, because, you might be on the road or you have practices or whatever it might be. And I just got to this place where I love the game, and I just realized it was time for me to shift my focus somewhere else, which was to build a business. And I wanted to be able to be at those moments for my friends and family. And so I felt such a sense of peace with that decision. I knew I wasn't going to stop playing. I mean, to this day, I do still play soccer. I just realized that I was going to be something else was going to be the prize, sitting in that priority seat for the next chapter of life.
Right. Well, that's beautiful. And it's so crazy because a lot of people quit on that bad day, but it's like so powerful that you were like, okay, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to move forward. I think that's so inspiring. People don't usually think about it that way, and people don't usually think about transitioning at all, actually. They think like they already have their thing and they're going to keep doing it forever. But here you are, and you're a perfect example of there's more out there. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, let's dive into Never Quit on a Bad Day in particular then. Do you happen to have a copy of the book with you today by any chance?
Do I? Yes, I do, right beside
Awesome.
me.
Okay, cool. Let's show it off.
Okay. Absolutely. Here it is. Cover.
Yeah, I love that design. Did you have a say in the cover art?
I did actually. I work with a great book designer and we collaborated on it. And so it was such a fun process. I've grown into being a detail-oriented person. I wouldn't say I always was. I definitely started to grow into that a lot more. And so we started going back and forth and just little adjustments. And what I wanted on the cover, I know it might be challenging to see, but on the arms, because this book is all about championship mindset. So on the arms are attributes of a champion. And so we went back and forth, and she was great in helping me in terms of editing and creating the photo. So this actually is a custom design that we worked on to create so that it would have attributes of a champion like persist and courage, stay strong, belief, focus, passion, go hard, heart, fun, teamwork. And so everybody coming together to create a championship. And so that's what this book's all really about is the mindset of a champion. And I believe that we're all champions in our own right. We're champions of our lives, and the choices that we make on a day-to-day basis allows us to live that champion lifestyle too.
Understood. Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. And I do like the design work too. I think it's a great way to you know, shine a light on what the book's about, but also not give away too much. But it's also inspiring too. So great stuff. So yeah, going into the content itself, I mean, Never Quit on a Bad Day. It's such a unique perspective, and you shared a little bit about your own experiences with that itself. But I'm wondering, there had to have been a little bit more to that. I mean, for example, like why exactly take that and then choose 10 athletes and, go into their stories? What was the process behind that? And how did you choose those 10 in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first book in the Never Quit on a Bad Day book series came out in 2023. And so really, if I go back even a step a little bit behind that is some friends of mine, we were kind of together just chatting about like that, what next? They're entrepreneurs as well. And I had shared that it's been on my heart for years just to create something to encourage, inspire, and really to shed light on my life as an entrepreneur, the lessons I learned as an entrepreneur, the lessons I learned as an athlete, and put it into something that can help other people. And so they were the ones who suggested write a book. And I was open to the idea. However, it wasn't like, yes, right away, let's do this. That night, though, I kind of simmered on it a little bit. And the month before, I had been inducted into the Quiltum Sports Hall of Fame, and we had sort of an induction ceremony. And the interviewer, he asked me, what has sport given me? And in that moment, I shared, some of the lessons the life skills that I've learned from sport. I also shared that a lot of those life lessons and skills I learned from sport came from the challenges that I faced in sport, not making a team, sitting on the bench, not even dressing for some games, all the lows, losing in championship finals, all the challenging stuff. And so that night, when I fast forward back to that evening with those friends and when I was simmering on it, that's when I realized I wanted to write a book that shared the story behind the story so that people can see that we all face challenges, we all face struggles. We get to choose how do we respond to those struggles. And then that kind of was the birth of Never Quit on a Bad Day, the first book. And then again, the first book features stories from entrepreneurs. And then this book, I knew, being an athlete, I really wanted to allow other people to kind of learn from athletes. I think the sports world is such a unique one. And there's so many, again, lessons that you learn throughout a journey as an athlete. And so I wanted to be able to create something so that whether someone isn't an athlete in athlete sports or if they're not, they can still learn and have a little bit of a glimpse into a life of what an athlete goes through and to take those lessons that they can learn from athletes and apply them to their own life.
Understood. I love that. And I didn't realize there was a series, which is really cool that, you have that. And I think it's great that, perhaps people might relate more to the athletes and the entrepreneurs or vice versa. So you're kind of giving your readers a choice in who they learn from. I think that's really awesome. A little bit of a side note, I have a feeling perhaps you're thinking even more books. I feel like this could go on and on, right? Like a book about performers, maybe, or like, different fields. Have you ever considered that?
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's interesting because what started off even in the beginning, it was like one book. And then as I was sitting with it, I realized, yeah, that it's bigger than just the one book. And so two books so far and a workbook. I'm in the process right now of working on another book, which will be released. Still working out when it'll be released. I'm very excited about that one. And yeah, it's really just about helping people. And one of the things I've stressed this is that the first book, although yes, it's stories from entrepreneurs and it's not really a business book, it's really a book about people who have goals and who have had challenges en route to their goals. Same thing with this book that features accomplished athletes. It really isn't a sports book per se, so it isn't geared just towards people who are in athletics. It's really for anyone who has a goal in life and maybe they feel like they've hit a little stumbling block en route to that goal, or they're feeling great and they want to keep going. They're working towards a goal and things are coming along, and they just want some tools in their toolbox to figure out how to navigate when those challenges may hit.
Understood. I love that. Yeah, so I guess we just have to kind of stay up to date on your platforms and know when, this might come to be. But in the meantime, definitely just immersing ourselves in the books that are out and learning from those. So awesome stuff. So let's chat a little bit then about, you do have all these different athlete stories in there, but then you also dive into the idea of knowing when it is time to quit yourself, which is really important too. So, I'm wondering if you want to chat a little about that. Like, how do people know when it's time to give up during advisory versus making a strategic life transition?
Yeah, so I mean, first, quitting, transitioning, when to do it, that's really very much a personal decision. And so, one of the things I just encourage people to do, because oftentimes when we quit on, I say bad day in quotations because bad is relative and it's all about perspective. That being said, typically when we do quit something, a lot of times it's fueled with negative emotions. We're frustrated, we're angry, it didn't go the way we wanted it to, we're disappointed, we're upset, and then it's just like, you know what, I'm done. Hands, throw in the towel, I'm finished. Versus when you're going to make that decision, do it on, again, a good day. And what I mean by that is do it when you're in almost like a place of whether you have neutral emotion or you're even in a place where you're really looking at what it is. And so, for example, if it was quitting on a goal or quitting whatever it might be, really looking at it when you're not in that state of, I'm angry. You're in a place of just kind of neutral and you are like, okay, let me make a decision. And a few things that I do mention in the book and things to consider is, when you started off on this goal or this job or this relation, whatever it is, did you, evaluate, look at your values. So does it still align with your values? Because I think that's very important. Number one, you have to be clear about what are your values, what are your core values. However, looking at it and going, okay, does this still align with the values of who I am right now? Maybe it did when you first started on this goal or this path, and now maybe things have transitioned. And so that's okay. It's taking a moment and evaluating that. Or maybe you set out to, if you're not still learning and growing, that might be a time to transition into something that's going to continue to challenge you so you can continue to learn and grow. Or did you accomplish everything that you set out to do? One of the things we talked about when I was playing with the Vancouver Whitecaps, I had goals. One of them was to, I wanted to win a national championship, which we did. There were certain personal awards and highlights and moments that I wanted to experience, which I was able to do. And so that's why for me, when I did decide to shift my focus and my priorities and decided to step back from playing with the Vancouver Whitecaps, I had already hit some of those milestones and key moments that I wanted to experience. And so that's where I knew it was time to transition. The other thing I always mention to people is, is it I guess another thing to look at is it causing you, if it is a really challenging and it's a situation where you're filled with a lot of negative emotions or it's making you really anxious or it's toxic, then it's time to really evaluate that. And that might be seeking professional help to really break it down to decide, okay, is it time to transition? And I was like, the reason I like to use the word transition is because so oftentimes people are like, well, I quit. Well, what are you moving forward to? Maybe it's time to transition into something something else, maybe that is no longer serving you where you were. And now it's time to transition and move it forward into something else. And that's why I do share that example with the Vancouver Whitecaps. When I decided to retire, it wasn't just, okay, I'm stopping because I'm angry or this or that. It's like, no, I'm really excited to move forward into that next chapter. And to do that with seeing where I want to go, what do I want to create? And that's the other thing I encourage people to do, is look at your future. What do you want your life to look like? And what you're doing right now, is that moving you closer to living that life? If it is, then great, keep going, keep working. Realize that, you're going to have to put in the work. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. If it's not taking you closer to that, that might be time to kind of reevaluate, and maybe it's time to transition into something else.
Thank you so much for leading us through that. That's a perfect, just like, short synopsis of the decision-making process for somebody to do this, but I'm sure they can get more details if they open up the book and turn to chapter 10 and learn a little bit more about it too. So perfect. You heard it here, everybody. If you want more guidance, then, check out the book and learn a little more. But thank you for that, those advice, the pieces of advice. That being said, I'm wondering if we can transition into the writing process itself a little bit. You mentioned to me that this book was actually kind of difficult for you to write because you were caring for your mother a little bit, but you practiced your never quit philosophy during the process. So can you walk us through that a little bit? And because I think a lot of authors can also learn from that about sticking to your goals regardless of what else might be going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was, I mean, the last 2 years have been a very challenging time personally. At the same time, it's been such a journey and a time of just immense gratitude to be able to have that time to care for my mom and then to, be with her. So during the writing process, so as I mentioned, I finished the first book, published it 2023, and then right away I was like, okay, I'm ready to do the next one. And so started kind of brainstorming, putting pen to paper, thinking of the athletes, like who do I want to reach out to, who's inspired me along my own journey, and going through that. And while, starting that process, my mom was diagnosed with dementia, and so started to decline quite quickly. And so it was very hard. It was a lot of very tough moments. That being said, again, filled with just gratitude. And so a lot of times I would have to just kind of take a step back and just go, okay, well, go back to your why. And I encourage people to do this. Why are you, writing a book? Why do you have a certain goal that you want to accomplish? And really staying connected to that, because when was having those tough days and tough moments where I was just like, oh my gosh, like attempting to focus on the book while also realizing, I haven't slept because sundowning and times all flipped. And so just being physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, spiritually exhausted, and then prepping to do an interview with an athlete. And so really having to refocus on, wait, why am I doing this? What was the original goal? And the mission and the goal of this has always been to be a source of encouragement for people when they're going through tough times, and to remind yourself that even though when things are tough, there's always still stuff to be grateful for. The two can coexist at the very same time. It doesn't minimize how hard things can be. It just allows you to shift focus. And that's often what I would have to do, is take a moment to just be like, well, what am I grateful for in this moment? Because it allowed me to shift my perspective to get back to, who am I writing this book for? And I'm really writing this book for, or sorry, was writing the book for, and the book series for that person who is struggling, who's going through a tough time, to let them know you're not alone in it. You will make it through. You will be okay. You can still have those tough times and find something to hold on to that'll keep you going. And that would be oftentimes what I would do, is just find one little thing to be grateful for, to hold on to shift my energy so that I could continue to write. And it really did give me something super exciting to focus on at the same time too. While I was going through everything, I was really just excited for this book, knowing how many people it can help and just positively impact along their own, as they navigate through their own lives.
Understood. Well, thank you so much for that. And also kudos to you for, just making the best of it and, using that as a great example for everybody else. So many authors are out there right now, maybe putting off their book or, finding themselves stuck in a rut with the writing process. But you're right, just ask yourself, what are you most grateful for? And then that's, just a great stepping stone to getting back on track and keeping yourself on it. So thank you for that. Some great writing advice. Now, kind of transitioning into your philosophy and everything else as we begin to near the wrap up of our show, If somebody's listening right now and they're in the middle of their own bad day, what would you say the first thing for them to do would be if they were to, stop this podcast and implement right now? What do you think?
I would say the first thing to do would just be to take a big deep breath. Like get in front of the mirror, look at yourself in the mirror, take a big deep breath, and just realize you've made it this far. So you're going to be okay. I think that is just such a key thing for us to all do sometimes is just take that moment to pause and recognize how far you've come to get to this moment. And so that would be the first thing. And the second thing, I got to follow it up with a couple more. So that would be number one is just take a big deep breath, look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, we're here. We've made it through tough stuff. We'll be okay. And we can make it through future tough stuff, including what you're going through right now. Second thing I would say is grab a pen and paper, write down 25 things you're grateful for right now. And it can be as simple as, well, you're listening to this podcast right now. So that is something you're meant to hear this message. So just find 25 things. And if that seems too overwhelming, start with 5. Just start with 5 things that you're grateful for right now in this space. And that'll help just to shift the perspective, maybe just enough to keep going, to keep writing a little bit longer. And then the third thing I would just say is, as we talked about a little bit, bad is relative, right? It's perspective. And so can you, with that shift in state by writing things that you're grateful for, can you look at that situation and maybe ask yourself, instead of like, why is this happening to me? What can I learn from this situation? To just shift it again a little bit and realize that perspective, we get to choose the lens that we put on situations. And again, I just want to let someone know, like, I understand. I still, that roller coaster of emotions. It's been a tough season, yet finding things to be grateful for every single day is what keeps me going.
Understood. I love that. And I guess to circle back to the gratitude aspect too. Clearly that's a big theme in what you do. And it's good though, because we all need to take a look around and be grateful for what we have. This is all really amazing, beautiful stuff. And I think this has been a great conversation so far. One thing I was thinking of is we did talk about some of your perhaps future work, but we never did quite think about where people can go to actually get connected with you. So what are some of the best ways to get in touch and stay connected?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'd love to stay connected with everyone. So you can go to my website, neverquitonabadday.com. You can get a free chapter from the book, from the first book. And then from there, you can connect. We can connect on Instagram, Facebook, and the handle is just Never Quit on a Bad Day. So very easy to remember.
Perfect. And we're going to put the links in the description box of this podcast today so everybody can go ahead and click on over and, get immersed in the world of Phebe Trotman. I love it. So yeah, as we end the show now, I'm wondering before we go off, what is one piece of writing advice that you wish you knew when you first got started that you think other authors could perhaps benefit from? Might
One
be a
piece of
tricky
writing advice.
one.
Interesting. I would say to celebrate your wins, right? Break it down into bite-sized moments, if you will. So, and celebrate, every page that you write, every word, celebrate the fact that you started on this journey. I think too often, myself included, we can get so focused on that goal, the end goal, if you will, like publishing the book that is just like, go, 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 go versus again just taking that moment and be like, I'm writing a book. Like that is a huge accomplishment, and celebrate that. And every time that you sit down to write, even if it's not the masterpiece that you wanted to be, celebrate that you started, that you wrote something, because you can always fine tune as you go. And I just want to encourage people, it is such an incredible feeling. And sorry, one other thing too, begin with the end in mind. So what I mean by that is focus on that end person who's going to be reading that book, and just get so connected with who that person is and how your book's going to help them, or it's going to make them smile, or it's going to make whatever the how that book is going to make someone feel, and then work backwards from there. And every time you go to write, just remember that you're connecting and you have the potential of changing someone's life with the work that you're creating. So celebrate every single step of that journey.
I love that. Thank you so much for leading us through that. I love that. I think that everybody could definitely benefit and find a piece of advice that they've learned throughout this podcast and put it into implementation. It applies to all walks of life, which is why your theories are so universal. So perfect. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate this, and I think that everybody will be very excited to dive more into the book itself and the 10 stories and everything in between. So, yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you for everything that you're doing to just encourage authors to stay on the path of what they're creating, because we definitely it is inspiring, because we all go through a journey, and for you to take the time out to create this podcast to celebrate and highlight is a huge accomplishment as well too. So thank you.
Yeah, and you're so kind. I appreciate it. It's always fun to just meet new people and share and spread the word and tips and tricks because we're all in it together. People think that writing is a solitary effort, but it's not. It's a team effort. So thank you. So yeah, guys, again, check out Phoebe's work online. The links are in the description box of this podcast. Everybody can learn from what she's mentioned here today. And thank you for being a part of another episode of Authors on Mission podcast. If this conversation sparked your author journey, just remember that your knowledge also deserves to be shared. So join us next time as we continue helping people like you transform their knowledge into impact. This is Danielle Hutchinson. We're here chatting with Phebe Trotman. And until the next episode, keep writing, keep leading, and keep inspiring. Have a good day, everybody.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or a leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.